Welcome to the Francis Micro Homestead. This is the cheap, easy, efficient, and smart way that we keep our shop warm during the winter. Let's take a look. So our shop here on our homestead is used for multiple purposes. It's used for storage, it's used for work, and in the winter, there's no change in that. We have to keep it warm because first off, we don't want to winterize our trailer. And second, we have water storage, food storage, and other things in here that doesn't really work well under the in freezing temperatures below 32 degrees. So we have to have a way to keep our shop warm. There's many different ways that we can heat up a shop or a garage. There's the propane or the gas heaters. There's electric heaters, pellet stoves, wood burning stoves. And out of all of those, the pellet stoves seem to be the best option for us. We don't have gas at our home. We only have electric. So we couldn't run a gas line to the shop or install a propane tank. It would just be costing way too much money for us. And an electric heater just for this size of space would be just too expensive for us. And a wood burning stove would just be too time consuming. We already have a wood burning stove that we maintain and use throughout the winter for our home and our living space. So having two of those would be too much work for us. So the pellet stoves seem to be the best option for us. And from how we've been using it and from our experiences, it is the best option. So these pellet stoves aren't necessarily built to warm up shops or garages, mainly because the thermostat controller that's built into the units, they're meant to be for more comfortable temperatures, such as 60, 70 degrees. So their controls don't go below 50 degrees. And my goal is to keep my shop above freezing, roughly about 38 degrees all winter long. And I want to do that efficiently. I don't want to warm up the shop to 60, 70 degrees all the time. I'm not out here all the time, and it doesn't need to be that warm out here all winter long, just as long as it's above freezing. So to be able to get that temperature, what I had done in the past was the controller on here had a setting that I can put on a timer. So what I would do is at 3 a.m. in the mornings, every morning, it would kick on and stay on for about 3 or 4 hours and then turn off. So it'd go from 3 to 5, 3 to 6, turn off. And then that would sometimes work. There would be days that it would be warm outside, such as like 30 degrees, 40 degrees. And this wouldn't need to be kicked on. So it would turn on when it didn't need to. And other days it would be -10 out, and I would need to have this kick on at like 11 or 12 instead of 3 in the morning. So it would get too cold in here. So I needed something that was more efficient for this pellet stove. So one solution that I was looking into with this pellet stove was the option to put in an external thermostat. There's a port on this one in particular that we can attach a pigtail that can be plugged into an external thermostat. Now, the problem is that most modern thermostats, they have the same issue with this one. They're in those same comfort levels of 50, 60, 70 degrees, and I needed to be down lower. Also, with thermostats, the external thermostats, when it hits that level, when it hits below a certain degree, it kicks on, but it only kicks on until it hits that threshold, and then it stops. For a pellet stove, this is a no-go because I don't want it to kick on at, let's say, 51 degrees, and it kicks on, and it takes some time for this pellet stove to get going. The pellets have to get started to get burning, then it has to get hot, and then once it gets hot, it's running, it's good to go. But then this gets hot, goes up to 52 degrees, and it tells the pellet stove to turn off. So it takes all that time, all that energy to build up heat, and then it tells itself to turn off. That's not efficient. So I didn't want that to happen either. So what I was thinking was getting a smart thermostat like this Amazon cheap thermostat that is a smart thermostat, hook it up to the pellet stove, and have it so that when it hits a certain temperature, it turns on and stays on for a certain amount of time and then turns itself off. So when it hits that 38-degree marker that I have set up in this shop, kicks on and stays on for 3 hours. So it's going to go above that 38, 39, and sometimes it will get up to 50 or 60 degrees during that 3 hours, depending on the weather that's outside. But now that it had run for 3 hours, it's going to take a long time for that temperature to drop down back down to 38, which means that this pellet stove will run efficient on the settings that I created for it. So with that being said, let's take a look at how this is wired. So for this particular setup, I had to buy a pigtail for the pellet stove that attached to the thermostat port on the control panel. It's a little circuit board that's in here that's accessible through this panel here. It plugs directly into the circuit board and then comes out with two leads. So I ran these up to the Amazon thermostat. Because these two leads do not draw power or do not carry power, I had to buy an external power adapter for the thermostat. And that leads up into the thermostat. So this is the Amazon home automation thermostat. The thermostat does need to be programmed and set up through this application. So before you get it installed, I would advise downloading the app, getting yourself set up on the account and associated with the Amazon home automation program if you haven't already. How I've set this up is there are 4 leads going into the thermostat. These leads give it power and tell the pellet stove to turn on and off. So from the power adapter, the positive or the red wire goes into RC, and the negative or the black wire goes into C. And then from the pellet stove, the pigtail plugs into W and R. And from what it looks like, I've tried it in both, and both work. It just needs that circuit to break or to connect. So it doesn't matter what cable plugs into W and what cable plugs into R. But those are the 4 connectors that you will need to connect your Amazon home automation thermostat. I would suggest plugging in the power leads before plugging it into the wall, just so you don't get yourself a shock. So once it's installed, open the app, click on the 3 lines at the bottom, then click routines, then click the plus at the top right. You can rename your routine to something that you can find easily. Then select add event, smart home, scroll to thermostat, and select the temperature that you'd like to adjust. For me, this is 38 degrees, but depending on how you have it, you can do 38, 40, 50, it's all up to you. Select add action, custom, and then tell the Amazon home automation program to turn heat on. Then you want to add another action, scroll down to wait, and select the desired amount of time to have the pellet stove run. For me, this is 3 hours. You could do 3.5, 4 hours, whatever you need. Add one last action in the custom, and then tell the Amazon home automation to turn heat off. And then you can also add any other actions in here. I have one that notifies my phone so that I get a notification even if it's in the middle of the night when it turned on and when it turned off. You can have it set to a smart plug or switch that turns on a fan that helps circulate the air. There's a lot of options with this particular routine. So after you have the routine added, All you have to do is go on to the pellet stove control panel and make sure that it's selecting the external thermostat. That way it gets its signal from that and knows when to turn on and off. So after it's set up in your routines, all you have to do is just wait for the temperature to go down. The one thing that I do love about it, though, is because it is now connected to the Amazon Home automation system, I can simply tell that program to turn on heat, and it will turn it on. Or I can go into the app, and next to the routine, there's a little play button. I can select that, hit play, and it turns it on. So on those Saturday mornings when I'm in bed and I know I'm going to be out here working, before I even get out of bed, I just hop on my phone, turn on that routine, kicks that on. By the time I've gotten dressed, eaten breakfast, it's nice and toasty in here, ready for me to work. What benefits do I have of setting it up this way? Well, first off, it stays the temperature that I need it to be, which is above freezing. But it does that in an efficient way. Now that I only have it running for 3 hours when it's needed to, it doesn't use that many pellets. In fact, last year I only used 12 bags of pellets throughout the whole season. So roughly about a bag every 5 to 10 days. Depending on the weather and depending on how cold, that can fluctuate, but 10 bags will get me through the season. But we're happy that it's working how we need it to. I'm happy that I'm able to turn it on without having to come out into the cold, come out into the cold shop and turn it on manually. I'm happy that my equipment here stays above freezing and I don't have to worry about it. And I'm happy that it doesn't cost that much and it's very efficient. But that's how we keep our shop warm in the winter. And I hope that you've learned something from this. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment. I do enjoy reading your comments and enjoy reading your questions and answering your questions. So please leave a comment if you have one, or if you have a question, I'm happy to answer. But if you haven't already, like and subscribe, and thanks again.